Okay, so we created primary ledger in the last session. We have configured ledger options. Primarily, we provided returned earnings account. There itself, it talked about dynamic combination. When you create new code combination, system will verify dynamic combination creation allowed checkbox is enabled at instance level or not. And also we have seen how to complete the primary ledger by using the task called as review and submit accounting configuration. And we discussed about geography data. Before you go and create any address or location information within the environment, we have to make sure the geography data is available. For that, we have a separate task, how to deal with the task we discussed. Very primarily, you have to import the geography data, make sure the relevant checkboxes are enabled. Once geography data is ready in our environment, we are good to create legal address or any other addresses. We'll see how to create the legal address, which is the registration address of the company. Mostly it's a physical address. And once legal address is ready, we are going to create legal entity. So to create the legal address, click on username. One second, let me refresh this. Fine. Might be doing kind of activity. It's running slow. Meantime, we'll discuss something else. Then we'll jump into the instance.
I think it's down. It's not even opening the login page.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that. Not an issue. Fine. So yes, we'll create legal address. With the help of legal address, we'll create the legal entity. Okay. Yeah. Yes, we'll perform these two tasks within instance. After performing what we are going to do, we'll discuss. Then we'll just go back and we'll create this. We'll see in the system. First, let's try to understand a few other relevant and important points related to legal entity. So we discussed on what base we create legal entity. Legal entity always based on the number of registrations you have in the business. Accordingly, we create the legal entity. Once you are ready with the legal entity, the legal entity we have to associate with your primary ledger. Say you have your primary ledger and you have your legal entity. And within the primary ledger, as a part of chart of accounts, we have balance in segment values. We have balance in segment values. So already we discussed what does it mean by balance in segment values. So what are the segments we have within the balancing segment? Those values we call as balancing segment values. Which segment is balancing segment? To which segment we are assigning primary balancing segment label. That segment is treated as balancing segment. That segment values are treated as balancing segment values, BSV, balancing segment values. So typically, company is the balancing segment, the company values are balancing segment values. As a part of the simulation, what we did in the system, the testing, we created few companies which we can treat as balancing segment values. Within this primary ledger, within our primary ledger, we have COA, calendar, currency, right? Accounting method. Within the COA, we have our balancing segment values. Say 1000, 1000, 3,000. Okay. So these are the values we created. These values we call as balancing segment values. Now we have to create a relation between these values. We have to create the relation between these three components. And once that is done, that we have to associate with our business unit also. This is very, very important to understand. Okay, not only setting up in the system, how the mapping we are creating, how the connection we are establishing between legal entity, primary ledger, balance and segment values, and prime business unit. This is very, very important when we talk about these topics like relation among across all these different definitions which we do in the system. So first what we have to do is we have to keep primary ledger ready. Yes, our primary ledger is ready. We have to create legal entity ready. Yes, we'll go and create the legal entity. We'll go and create the business unit. Before we create, we'll understand few points. The legal entity we have to associate. We have to associate with primary ledger. Why we have to associate legal entity with primary ledger? Reality, there is no need. But why we are going to assign? Why we are going to map? The reason is whatever the balancing segment values, nothing but company values, which we have in our primary ledger, these we have to map to legal entity. Legal entity refers the registration. This is the registration information. Now you have three companies. These three companies are running with how many registrations? You may have a three registrations for three legal entities, right? You may have three registrations for three companies. If this is true, what you have to do is you have to map. So company 1000, you are running with which registration? Company 1000, you are running with registration 1. The same way, the company 2, you are running with legal entity 2, and company 3000 you are running with registration 3. This is how we have to create the mapping between balancing segment values and legal entity. If you want to create this sort of mapping between the legal entity and the balancing segment values, it is not possible as a direct action. First, the legal entity need to be associated with the primary ledger. When you create association between legal entity and primary ledger, the relation, mapping, connection between legal entity and primary ledger, then within the primary ledger, what are the chart of accounts we have as a part of the same primary ledger, those we can map to legal entities. The primary requirement is we have to create the mapping between balance and segment values and legal entity, so that whenever you record the transaction with 1000, system can understand. As a user, we can understand this company belongs to which, this company we are operating with which registration, because we are mapping every company we are going to map to respect to legal entity, or else the case could be all the companies you can map to one legal entity also. Okay, all you can just map to one legal entity. This 2000 3000 also you can map to the same legal entity. The same legal entity, that is also possible. That totally depending on client business registration. For few clients, you see every balance and segment value, it may be the legal entity related representation. In that case, you just create multiple balance and segment value, and you create multiple legal entities. Each balance and segment value you may map to one legal entity. Or else it could be you have only one registration, you are running the different companies or different businesses. For each business you may have separate balance and segment value in that scenarios, all the balancing segment values we are going to map to one legal entity. And sometimes for few clients, what they do is say they have 5 registrations. For 4 registrations, they may have one balancing segment value. That means 4 balancing segment values and 4 legal entities. And another legal entity, they may have more than one balancing segment values. In that case, those multiple balancing segment values we map to 5th legal entity. Remaining 4 legal entities, we map only one balancing segment value. Okay, we map only one balancing segment value. That's what we have to understand. So we cannot directly perform this mapping. That is the reason what we do is first we have to map the legal entity to primary ledger. Then system will allow us to map balancing segment values to legal entity. The very first task is the moment you create legal entity, the legal entity you have to assign to your primary ledger. Have to assign to your primary ledger. After assigning to primary ledger, then you'll be able to map balancing segment values to legal entity. Now, when you record the transactions in the business unit, okay, if you have 3 legal entities and 3 balancing segment values, ideally we create 3 business units. Okay, we create 3 business units. Now, when we perform the setups in the system, okay, when you perform the setups in the system, what we do? We map balancing segment value with business unit. Okay, we map balancing segment value with business unit. This is what we do. So whenever you are recording the transaction with BU1, BU1 is mapped with the balancing segment value. Balancing segment value is mapped with the legal entity. Then every transaction level within the business unit 1, if you record the transaction, that will be recorded with the balancing segment value 1000 and with the legal entity called as 1. And this all will be part of same primary ledger. Okay, so you can assign multiple legal entities to one primary ledger. Here, take the same case. You can assign multiple. So multiple legal entities you can assign to same primary ledger. So this is all about mapping we have to understand. This is how we are going to create the relation across primary ledger, legal entity, balancing segment values, and business units. Any questions here, please?
I would say is primary ledger is just an umbrella to hold the legal entity and company, right? It is, we are not going to perform any transactions using the primary ledger. We perform transactions.
No. So totally deviation. The point. The primary ledger purpose is only to record the accounting data.
Okay.
If you are going to record the accounting data, you need relevant components, right? You are going to record the accounting transactions, accounting data for what? Which entity, right? The entity is established in the system environment with which balancing segment value. That is aligned with which business unit. These all components need to be connected. By doing all this mapping, the meaningful accounting transactions we are going to record within the primary ledger. That's it. This is all what we are doing to record the accounting transactions only within the primary ledger. That's it.
Okay. The next question is business unit or not at all part of the account combination, right?
Yes,
whatever the
exactly. But one thing we have to understand, business unit name itself, the label itself may not be part of accounting code combination, but that always will have a identity with the balancing segment value. If I say 1000 means which business unit, what do you say? Business unit 1 you say, right?
Yes.
2,000 means you say business unit 2, 3,000.
Mhm.
That's how it will have a representation with balancing segment value. Every business unit will be represented with the respective balancing segment value.
Okay.
Every
So in
balancing
case,
segment value is represented by specific legal entity, one legal entity, or else multiple balancing segment values also may be represented by one legal entity only.
okay, got it.
Yeah, please.
So if I want to generate a report, all the transactions that happened today with segments plus business unit and plus primary, can I get all
Yes,
by?
yes. You can do that. You can do that. That is pretty much possible in the each and every application. Yes, because if you look at this business unit, if you understand, the primary ledger is mapped with the business unit, right?
Yes.
And legal entity also mapped with your business unit. Balance and segment value also mapped with the business unit. This all we are mapping with this business unit. Reality, we record the business transaction within the business unit. The core day-to-day business transactions we record within the business unit. I have a business unit one. I have an invoice from my supplier. If I want to record the transactions, what I need primary ledger. I have to capture the date, I have to capture the description, I have to enter the currency, etc. So I use the primary ledger. Along with that primary ledger, I have to relate that invoice which I'm recording in my business is belongs to which balancing segment value. That this balancing segment value for accounting code combination purpose, accounting purpose. Okay. I cannot take directly legal entity name as a chart of account segment value. Name I cannot take. For that name, I'll give one code. That I will take.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I will take. So that's how whenever I record the transaction within my business unit, I am just choosing my primary ledger. Along with the primary ledger, I am just relating which entity the transaction is belongs to. Because today, if you don't record the transaction by referring the specific legal entity, nothing but registration, tomorrow when you are going to report to the government, you will not have any clue. That is the reason you have to align each and every transaction. You are recording the transaction as per which entity that need to be tracked in the system. Okay, this is what
So,
you have to understand. Any other questions here, please?
with respect to end user perspective, primary ledger is behind the scenes, and
Correct.
even if you have 100 primary ledgers, nothing to do. What is my account combination
Yes,
and which business unit I am doing transaction, that is relevant for him, right?
exactly. For business users, what you will do, just you will give the BU access. That's all. Okay. The BU is mapped with which balance and segment value, which legal entity. These all are aligned with which primary ledger. They don't need to worry about it. This is a part of solution. How that company wants to manage their track and maintain and produce the reports. Based on those parameters, we do this alignment as a part of implementation as a consultant. Once implementation is done, they will say, I have a user one, give BU1 access. I have a user two, give BU3 access. I have user three, give BU2 access. They'll ask us that we will provide, then they'll start using. They no need to select so and so all these in every transaction. Everything is mapped, everything would be automated. The simple task end user will perform is they'll select BU or else no need to select also. For which BU they have access, within the BU they will record the transaction. Beyond the scene, this all will be already aligned and accordingly transactions will be recorded and you will be able to produce the reports. End users, business users, no need to look into like selecting primary ledger, selecting legal and etc. by default. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, please? Fine. No questions. Now we'll go and see the legal address creation, then legal entity. Already our primary ledger is ready. We'll assign this legal entity to our primary ledger, and we'll see how we can map the balance and segment values with the legal entities. So this we are going to do. To map the balance and segment values to business units, it takes some time. We have to wait few more classes, then only we'll be in the position to do it. For now, this is a targeted area. Fine. We'll go and see that. Okay. So we'll create the legal address. How to create the legal address? So search for legal addresses. The task name is manage legal addresses.
How this instance is working now? Almost 2-3 weeks it didn't work. Dev 7.
No, it was different 7. That was different 7. This is the different 7. Another 7. Okay. This is not the one which you got access. Everybody got access. This is a different one. Yep. So manage legal addresses. Okay. Task name is manage legal addresses. We'll see how to create the legal address. So by default, here you could see search panel. If you want to find out the existing addresses, you can use this criteria and you can find out. We never created any legal address. So we'll create the new legal address. Click on plus icon and provide the name. Yes, we are going to create legal address for United States. How system knows we are creating legal address for United States?
Primary ledger based on.
There is a primary ledger here.
Oh yeah, correct.
Right? It is there somewhere. Somewhere it is sitting within this environment, right? How system knows? So you can set default country for every instance. Whenever you navigate to any page, if there is any option to choose the country, instead of choosing every time the desired country value, we can set that as a default. Okay, we can set. Say you are implementing for India. Now all the time, system will give this field as a blank by default. Again, looking for searching and selecting India or other country, additional task. To eliminate that, Oracle given an option, we can set the preference of the country. For specific user you can set, or else for entire instance level also you can set. For this entire instance, let anyone use this instance. Wherever the field is available to select country value, the field by default should be filled with the respective country. Later, if you want to change, you can change it. That we can set with the concept called as profile option. Okay, the concept is profile option. We can set profile for this instance with respective to country name. We can set certain defaults. Okay, we can set some default so that every time you navigate to any page, if there is any option to choose the country, you no need to choose. By default, it will take the desired value which you are setting through profile option. We'll see how to set the profile option to default the country for the entire instance level or entire environment level. So whenever you navigate, all the time it will take United States. So you just click United States. How it is taking? For within this environment, the profile option already set. How to set the profile option we'll see. Not only this country, there are certain other details which we set as a default based on the user requirement as a preferences. To set the profile option, okay, go to global search. From here, you cannot find all the tasks. This is limited scope. This has a limited scope. Finance is a scope. Now go to global scope. Click on search. And here, there is a task called as manage administrator profile values. That is the actual task name. You don't need to remember entire task. When you see, you can understand, but to find the task, use specific string within that profile option name, within the task name. So manage administrator profile values. I no need to type everything. I will type profile. Even I don't want to type value, I will type V. That is enough. It can understand. It can match. Okay, just search for the task called as profile values. It will fetch the relevant task. Here we go. Manage administrator profile values. Manage administrator profile values. By using this task, you can set default country. Click on manage administrator profile values and search for the required profile value. Like now we are going to set the country. Later, if you want to set default business unit for a specific user, yes, that is also possible. Profile option is same. The task name is same. If you want to set default country, we use one profile option. If you want to set default business unit, we use the different profile option. When we deal with the business unit, we will set, now we are talking about country, we'll go accordingly. So type profile option name here, profile display name. Profile display name is default. We want to set country. Okay, country, they are not giving the profile option name as country, territory. Okay, search for default territory. Okay, so here is the profile option name. Default territory. Now click on plus icon. What level you want to set default country? Two levels you can set. Entire instance level means site. If you set site for every user, that would be applicable. But again, user level you can override. Say client is operating the business in India and US, and most of the business takes place in US. Few users are working on the environment from India who are part of India business. You may set site level as a United States. By default, United States will be defaulted wherever country selection is required. But only for India users, you can select country as India. So set at site level and set user level. So if you have something at site as well as user, system will give priority user level. What is set for your user, that country will be defaulted for you. And if nothing is set at user level, by default system will look at site level. You don't have anything at site level also, then the field will be blank. You have to select the country. So that's how it works. Okay, here you can select profile level as a site. Site is nothing but entire instance, entire environment level we are setting. Here you can pick the required value. So this is how you can select, and you can say save and close, so that this would get defaulted. You could see here for a different user level, different countries are set as a default countries. The same way you can set site level also. Okay. So this is the point you have to understand. Based on this setup, we are able to see country is defaulting in this instance. Again, we'll go back. From here also, we can navigate to legal addresses.
Can we search what are the defaults at this time, site level?
Sorry?
All defaults.
Sorry?
At site level, what are all the defaults at this point in time? Can we search?
Yeah, you can see in that page. Okay.
Yeah.
Default territory. And here we have a filter. Sometimes the filter you may see as a collapsed
Mhm.
mode. This is how you may find. One sec. Yeah. You just enable filter.
Assign only territory default. If
Yeah.
you click
Here you
first.
search with the profile level as site. Enter. Only United States. Okay. So that's how it is.
Only we are searching only territory. If we put profile display name default and remove territory, can we search what are all there?
Yeah, you can find it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You are referring here. Yes. You can search.
Hmm.
What are the different profile options we have to set the defaults you can find.
Okay. Yeah, this one.
Yeah. Big list.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. See here. Default
Yeah.
currency for user. Default business unit.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Lot of information for it. Default book. Not only in the finance, okay, across all the applications, default currency and SCM point of view, manufacturing point of view, PPM point of view, inventory, etc., etc. So there are a lot many profile options which can help us to set something as a default.
Okay.
Fine. That's all about how to set the default country. Now we'll go back to legal addresses. So here is the task, manage legal addresses. So click on plus icon and country is defaulting. If you want to change, yes, you can change. You can switch to any other country also and provide address line 1. So we get incorporation certificate from the client. By seeing that certificate, we enter the data. Sometimes client may email you all their registered names with respect to address and the tax IDs, etc., etc. Some clients always they share entire incorporation document also. You have to look into that accordingly. You have to create the address. For our testing, I'll give the name as okay, ADP legal address. And the rest of information is the line 2 and all optional. You may enter, may not enter. Even it is optional, you enter so that you can identify with certain name. And we have seen geography information. There is certain hierarchy. If you notice, country, within the country, state, in state, county, in county, city, in city, postal code. That is the hierarchy we have. Now, the lowest level is postal code. If you select postal code, that postal code is belongs to which city, the city is belongs to which county, the county is belongs to which state. That system can fetch automatically. Now you don't need to fill all these fields, just provide the postal code. You have a company registration with which postal code that you can provide here. If you have a postal code, exact code, you can provide the value and search and find the postal code and select accordingly, or else you can just pick any one of the random postal code. I'm searching for the postal codes which starts with a 5. Say this is the postal code we want to use. With this address, client has their company registration. Select, say OK. Everything is getting defaulted. Now say OK. And say save and close. And click on done, or else we just completed legal address. Now we'll see how to create the legal entity. How to create the legal entity, we'll see. So search for manage legal entity. Here is the task. The task name is manage legal entity. The same story, because of the profile option, system is defaulting the country, the legal entity creation page. So provide legal entity name. Reality, the client will provide the registration name. As it is, we have to enter the registration name here. Maybe the registration name could be ADP software some INC, etc. This could be their registration name. The name as it is, we have to enter here. But for our practice purpose, what we are going to do is we are going to give the name like ADP US legal entities. We are learning. We'll go with this naming convention, but always remember the name what we enter based on the registration certificate. As per certificate, whatever the name is available, with what name they have a company incorporation, the same name we have to enter. So legal entity identifier, you can enter any identification information and all. Okay. So maybe ADP, say for example, this registration, okay, this registration for company 1000, that you can input here for just identification purpose. ADP 1000 I am giving. That means when I look at this legal entity, I can understand this legal entity. To record this legal entity transaction, we have a balancing segment value 1000 in our system. That's how, just for our identification purpose, you can provide any kind of mapping. I'm just taking legal and balance and segment value mapping. It is not the mapping which we discussed. Just as a clue, I'm giving, or else you can give any name here, nothing wrong. Now, payroll, statutory unit, and legal employer. Even they are not giving these fields as a mandatory, you should treat these two as a mandatory. Otherwise, you cannot see the legal entity behavior as we expect. What does it mean by payroll, statutory unit, and legal employer? Here is the information. Here is a question mark. If you place the cursor on it, it talks about what does it mean. The payroll statutory unit means, with this registration, are you going to run the payrolls? There could be certain registrations where you never run the payrolls in the company. Other legal entities may take the part of running the payrolls. So this legal entity is going to be responsible to run the payroll. With this registration, are you going to run the payroll? When you talk about running the payroll, first of all, the big question is, are you going to employ the people with this registration? That you can decide with the second one. Legal employer is nothing but, are you going to recruit the employees with this registration? If you are hiring the people to work for your company with this banner, with this registration name, then definitely will be running the payrolls. Or else payrolls could be something else also. That totally how that HCM solution is designed. Human capital management, HR and payroll solutions are designed accordingly, it works. But when we create legal entity, always you enable payroll statutory unit and legal employer. Enable these two check boxes so that we will not have any hiccups, challenges going forward. Done. Now, since we selected country as United States, accordingly system is displaying the identifying jurisdiction. Okay, identifying jurisdiction. So it is defaulting United States income tax. Based on this value, these two fields will get displayed here. These two fields we are able to see here because the identifying jurisdiction is this. If you change, this will be changed, or else you can keep the same and the display names we can change depending on the country. So you can change, but by default you don't need to change. If you want to change, how to change, we'll see. Okay, whenever we create legal entity, we have to provide the company registration numbers here. Most of the implementations, you don't get these two numbers, three numbers. Ideally, one number client will provide, will copy and paste the same registration number in the two fields. When we get incorporation certificate, whatever the registration number we get, by default, you will copy and paste in these two fields. We don't look for very relevant information. Just we are mapping the registration number. Since two fields are mandatory, we provide in the two fields. That's the reality. But how you can play with these two fields? Okay, so there is a setup. Fine, you can just search for the jurisdiction. I'm using the different login, no worries. Our target is understanding how to create the legal address and the legal entity. Once we are ready, we can proceed associating with our primary ledger balancing segment values. Go to global search. Okay. So manage legal jurisdictions. The task name is manage legal jurisdictions. Make a note. Okay. Please take note of each and every point what we are discussing as well as what we are doing in the system. That will help you to prepare well. You can read and you can work on the system. The task name is manage legal jurisdictions. Here, search for territory called United States. United States. Say okay. Now hit search button. Now, here you can see by default only you can find these two. The two you will find, rest all created for practice purpose. Really you find these two only. One is for federal tax. If you are implementing fusion applications for federal government, means for government organizations, you may use this. Otherwise, by default, we use this kind of income tax kind of profile. And you have many, but only one you can set as default. Here you can see identifying is set as one. Now, whatever the profile this jurisdiction has, that is reflecting in our legal entity page. You just click on the same record. Now, if you look at here, United States income tax, United States income tax, the field name is EAN or TAN, legal reporting unit registration number, EAN or TAN or legal reporting. If I change to something, a civil identifier, this will display here. And instead of legal reporting unit registration number, I may give something else. ESI employee number, not applicable here, just for our understanding. If I give this here, the same will reflect. Okay, you are giving, you have to save again, we have to open this page, then it will reflect. So this is how you can change. Two fields are available, registration code assignments. So in these two fields, whatever the value you want to, whatever the label you want to display, these are the labels. Okay, whatever you select, that will be displayed here as a label information. This is one label, here is another label. Those you can set accordingly, it will get displayed. And at a time, you can have only one identification. Okay, if you change identification, the latest one it will take as a priority. It will change from here to other. Okay, I can go to other jurisdiction definition. There I can select S for identifying. Then this will turn into no automatically. That's how it works. Okay, here you can play around. with the legislation data. Okay, the legislation kind of jurisdiction data. You can set how you want to see this label for these two fields. And what are the legal address we created that we have to attach to this legal entity by using this field. ADP legal entity. Okay, search for ADP. Okay. This is the one we created. So somebody created with ADP. ADP legal address. This is the one we created, and this is the address we selected. So and here you can provide the details. You just get this information from the client. We don't need to discover anything. Now say save and close. So this is how we have to create the legal entity. Once the legal entity is ready, okay, the legal entity we have to assign to our primary ledger. The legal entity we have to assign to our primary ledger. We'll see that.
Hello.
The legal entity is created. Yeah, please. Any question? Please go on mute. Done. Legal entity is created. Now what we'll do is the legal entity whatever we created will assign to our primary ledger. Okay. Fine. This environment is running slow. Okay, no issues. So we created legal address, and by using that legal address, we created legal entity. Now primary ledger is ready, legal entity is ready, whatever we created. Within the primary ledger, balancing segment values ready, and also, I mean, yeah, up to this ready. If you look at our enterprise structure, we will do the assignment. Okay, no worries, we'll do the assignment. What we have to do, let me just list out the kind of sequential of setups which you are going to perform. Once we are ready with the legal entity, so next task would be assign legal entity to primary ledger. After assigning legal entity to primary ledger, we need to assign balancing segment values to respective legal entities. Assign, instead of writing balancing segment values, write it and call it as a BSV. So assign BSV to balancing segment values to legal entity. Okay. So each balancing segment value you may assign to different legal entity, or else the case could be you have multiple balancing segment values but only one legal entity, which is applicable accordingly. You have to do the mapping. So once you complete these two tasks, the mapping would be ready. The next task would be creating the business unit, and accordingly we have to discuss few other points also. Here, we'll create as per enterprise structure. Yes, we will talk about enterprise division also, or else we'll look into that. Once we'll finish, we'll proceed with the business unit creation and these mappings, etc. Let's look into enterprise. So already we discussed for one environment, in one instance, we can have only one enterprise. And that too, Oracle is providing that enterprise. We don't need to create. We don't need to create. Oracle is providing the default enterprise. The name also would be default enterprise. We never deal with this enterprise component. The enterprise already discussed is mapped and designed for the purpose of employees. to maintain the employees and to run the payrolls, the enterprise we use, the system environment, how you are going to implement, what solution you are going to implement for HCM applications, human capital management applications. Accordingly, the enterprise level, the required controls and defaults need to be specified by HCM consultant, but not by finance consultant. We don't deal with enterprise. But since we are finance functional consultant, we should aware the entire enterprise structure, how it is aligned, what is there as a part of each and every level. But our area is playing with these primary three components. We deal with the primary ledger, we deal with the legal entities, we deal with the business unit. The SCM consultant will deal with inventory, and HCM consultant, here SCM, supply chain management consultant, will deal with inventory. HCM, human capital management, deal with the enterprise. If required divisions also they'll use. So that's how it works. Okay, but anyway, we'll go on to review how the enterprise is available in this environment. Okay, we no need to create. By default, Oracle is providing. What HCM consultant will do is they will rename it. Then by default, the name would be default enterprise. They will update with the client enterprise name, and rest of information they will set as per HCM solution. We'll have a just a glance at the enterprise so that we can understand. So
If HCM is not implemented and HCM
no
consultants
worries,
not,
we don't need to touch.
the basic things we need to do, right? Like
No
renaming.
basic, no basic. Okay. So there is nothing to do from HCM side. So there will be kind of task that you no need to touch HCM enterprise, that you can do, creating employee users. That is a shared service Oracle is offering. Even if you don't opt for HCM solution, if you are going to implement only finance and SCM, or it may be only finance, you need employee definition in the system. But you don't have access to HCM. You are not subscribed HCM, but still Oracle is allowing to create basic employee definition. But you cannot run the payrolls and you cannot maintain the proper records of employees. Who is the employee? What is the name? Who is the employee manager? What is the designation, etc. That kind of information we require across all the applications. For that purpose, Oracle is allowing us to use employee basic record definition, maintenance, and usage across the applications. Okay, if HCM is not being implemented, we don't need to worry about it. Still, we have option to create employees in the system, which is a shared service. Okay, fine.
If Workday is implemented, do we just only get the payroll data, means only the what is the salary we paid, what is the insurance we paid, like that kind of information only, right? Not to the detailed level of job or employee level.
We don't need all those, right? Finance point of view, we need finance data from payroll. That too, you get the data into GL directly from the HCM payroll application. Okay. Employee record level, you will maintain job, grade, manager, XYZ.
In third-party tools or in HCM. Okay.
Yeah, we are talking about Oracle related product. Yes. If you are maintaining all those in the third party, that's a different story. Yeah. So we get payroll information. Okay. The costing, employee costing information to GL from HCM payroll application. And employees data, what you maintain in HCM, will be available across all the applications. You can see from payables, you can see from receivables, you can see from other application. Wherever you need employee information, that would be available, since you are maintaining that information in HCM. Even if you are not implementing HCM, Oracle is allowing you to maintain your basic employee records, but you cannot run the payrolls, basic employee records. And there, whatever you define, in whatever the applications you need that employee information, you can access and you can use. That's how it works. Fine. Now we'll just look into the enterprise record, how Oracle is providing, what information is available, which is related to HCM, pure HCM. Search for the task called as enterprise HCM information. The prefix would be like manage. Manage enterprise HCM information. Okay, manage enterprise HCM information. Click on this task, which is enabled with hyperlink. Every task enabled with hyperlink. So click on manage enterprise HCM information. So the one and only enterprise, what is available for this instance, you can see that. So here is the enterprise data, which you can see. Here is the name. By default, Oracle provides name as default enterprise. Since it's a kind of practice environment, somebody changed to some JCI or ABC or XYZ. What HCM consultant will do is they will set all these details which are related to HCM. You can look at these records, so name and the global segments related to HCM and workday. Okay, working hours for the employees, the organization, weekly 40 hours. Okay, the hours frequency weekly, and enterprise worker number generation. It's a manual or automatic. Okay, the tiers, 2 tiers or 3 tiers employment model. It's a core HCM related points, and the role provisioning for HCM people or any users, employee users, and global payroll elements in your payslip, whatever the elements you see, basic, HR, etc., all those elements configurations, and US balance definitions, like all the related to HCM, jobs, departments, managers, locations, grades, provision period, etc., all the controls they are setting here, and other information, HCM floor, document type mapping, and later configuration and document generation, position hierarchy in the organization, workforce structure, search criteria. Anything you see here completely related to HCM. So what HCM consultant will do is they'll navigate to this page. They will go to edit and say update. Say okay. We don't want to specify the reason why we are trying to update. There is one functionality in HCM which we call as date effective tracking functionality. For that purpose, this date and what action you are doing, so that everything will be tracked HCM point of view, so that they can understand how the record got just evolved during the certain period, how it was later, what added, who added, when added, why added. So how the document was updated, when it was updated, what information updated to capture, they use the data effective tracking. So that's what it will give in the pop-up. Then we can change the name. ADP group, you make you the name, and where the headquarters, that location you may provide. And here you can update the timings, and here you can, this all should be done by HCM consultant. Whenever you create employee, how the employee number need to be generated in this environment, that you can set. So automatic number generation with a global sequence, or the sequence should be based on the legal employer. Legal employer is nothing but your legal entity. Your legal entity will act as a legal employer. So global sequence you want to follow, or you want to follow legal entity based employee number generation, that they will decide as a part of HCM solution, they will decide. And person number generation method, that you can set when that should occur, how it should occur, you can specify. And assignments, these are all related to HCM solution. Okay, it doesn't make any sense for us to see and understand the complete information. Okay, So how they are.
What is the difference between person number
One
generation?
second, 1 second. I'll give you the time. I'll give you the time. So they can set all these details. Okay. You don't need to understand much. You don't need to have a deep dive. Just there is enterprise. Their HCM information need to be provided. This is what we have to understand. That's it. We don't need to learn anything from this. Yeah. That is the point we have to understand. Yeah. Please. Somebody is saying something.
Worker number and person number. What is the difference?
Okay. When you create a user, okay, that will be appearing as a worker for a user number. For a user, when you create for employee, that will become worker number generation. Okay, person means it's only like within the HCM what they use, that is treated as a person. Okay, for any employee, if you create the user, it will display that user number for the person. That's how worker number is different from person number. We'll see that we'll create employee users. At that time, you'll see that number, how it will generate, where it will reflect, how it will represent the naming convention. Those details you can see. So this is just to understand how that record looks like. That's all. Okay, I'm not saving also. So cancel. This is all about enterprise. Already discussed, we generally don't create divisions and we don't deal with the divisions. But just to understand how division can be created within the environment, we'll go through the division task also. The task name is manage divisions. Click on manage divisions and click on the plus icon to create the division. You can give the division name, maybe ADP Consulting Services. So nothing we are going to map, click on next, and close it. Nothing we cannot map. You can provide who is looking after the division manager, etc. Next, done. That's all. You are nowhere relating or nowhere mapping this. Done. Already discussed, no applications also mapped at division level to record the transactions as per enterprise structure. So these divisions can be used in the HCM point of view, projects point of view. We maintain the different hierarchies. Okay, HCM HR hierarchies and project hierarchies. There they can make use of this division, but in the finance point of view, there is no great value addition with the division. Okay, if you want to division each and every business transaction, make division as one of the segment in the chart of account really if it is required for you. So that's how division is. That's all about enterprise, just to understand division to see. And primary ledger already we created, it is completed and ready. Yes, legal entity also ready. Now we should talk about the story of business unit. Okay, we'll talk about the business unit. Before we go and create the business unit, we'll do the mapping also. Okay, we'll assign our legal entity to primary ledger, balance and segment values to legal entity. Then we'll create business unit and we'll talk about rest of information. Okay, anyway, these two tasks are pending. So before we kick off these tasks, let's try to understand the business unit story. So already discussed as a part of enterprise related discussions, your business unit could be your legal entity only. For each legal entity, you may create one business unit. Sometimes under one legal entity, you may have a multiple business units. The business unit can be represented with the different businesses, what you are doing with the same registration, or else it could be the legal entity can be represented by the branch. You have business, only one business, one registration, only one business, but you have a 10 branches. Okay, you want to segregate and you want to set a control and you want to produce the reports and you want to set a security for the data, your branch wise. So in that case, each branch you may create one business unit. Each branch you can create one business unit. Most of the use cases which you see when you are working, legal entity wise, we create the business unit. For some clients within the legal entity, multiple business units. For some clients, it's again different story. What's wrong with the network today? Fine. So that's how it is. It is not like kind of hard-coded rule. Okay, it is a flexible rule. Most of the implementations for each legal entity, we create one business unit. For each legal entity, we create one balance and segment value. Balance and segment value to use in the accounting point of view to create accounting code combination. Business unit for user understanding. The legal entity for reporting purpose based on this BU and the balance and segment value based transactions. Now, if you want to create the business unit in the system, what setups required? So you have to create location for the business unit. As per your business, sometimes the business unit may be the logical segregation. Okay, you may have office in one location. In the same office, you might be running the multiple businesses. In that case, yes, you'll have a physical address, the same address. Sometimes it may be treated as a logical segregation of your business operations as a business unit. That is reason Oracle is giving legal entity business unit location as an optional. When you create the business unit location is not mandatory. But if you don't specify location for business unit by seeing the field is optional as per system, there are certain concepts within the finance, those doesn't work. So always you treat business unit location is mandatory. So create location for business unit. Okay, create location for business unit. Create location for business unit. And another once location is ready for business unit where you are operating your business, accordingly create the physical address. Then you can create business unit. It's a very simple step. Okay, very simple task. So create business unit. After creating business unit, the business unit is going to involve in which business activities. The business unit may involve in procurement activities and making the payment to supplier. The business unit may involve in sales activities and collecting the payments. And what are the business unit may involve in project related activities. So whatever the business unit is, I mean, what business functions the business unit is managing as per the client business, those all we have to set up in the system. Okay, those all we have to set up in the system. For that, we use the kind of activity task called as business unit business functions. So here you can say assign business unit business functions. Reality, Oracle is writing the name as function, but take it as a functions, nothing wrong. Reality, those are multiple functions. Along with these, we will set this business unit is only operated by only payables department. There is no receivables department. Then we will set only payables related business functions for that BU. And another business unit may perform activities like purchasing, making payment, and selling goods and collecting the payment. Accordingly, we have to set the business functions. Invoice creation you treat as a one business function for payables. Payment creation is treated as another business function. Receivables, billing to customer is treated as one business function, and collecting the payment from the customer is treated as another business function. So that's how we have to set. Along with this, we have to assign our primary ledger and legal entity to the business unit here itself. Assign primary ledger and LE, legal entity to BU. So this is within this task. That is the reason I'm writing here. Okay. So when we talk about assign business unit business functions, we have to describe what activities this business unit is going to perform. Okay. That we have to specify. That means we have to enable those business functions for that BU. Along with that, we have to associate, we have to assign our primary ledger and legal entity to that business unit. So this is how we have to set up our business unit in the system environment. Okay. Now the pending tasks are assign legal entity to primary ledger. Then system will allow you to assign the balance and segment values to legal entities, and you can create business unit. When you create the business unit, location is not mandatory, but provide location as a mandatory. Otherwise, few concepts doesn't work within the finance. Which concepts when we are dealing will come to know. And we have to assign business functions to that business unit. That means we have to set the business unit is going to involve in which functional areas of business, and also we have to assign our primary ledger and legal entity to RBU. Okay. So these are the tasks in the queue. Fine. So this part will complete in the tomorrow session. Okay, sequence wise, the first one is assign. The second task is assign balancing segment values to legal entity. Okay, this will come later point of time. Just you have to understand. Just try to understand the alignment, how we are mapping, how we are connecting. That will give big picture understanding for us going forward when we record the transactions. Okay. So we are done for today. Okay, if you have any questions, please stay back. We'll be working on the pending tasks. Once we are done with that, yes, we'll execute few more tasks in the tomorrow session itself.